Welcome back. This is Taekook Fanfiction Story, The Two Faces of the Jeons Part 3. Are you ready? Let's begin. The sound of Jungkook's car slamming shut echoed through the night. Inside the house, Jeok sat in the living room, scrolling lazily through his phone. He looked up when Jungkook entered, and froze. Jungkook's eyes were blazing. "What happened, Jungkook?" came his father's voice from the hallway, alarmed by the noise. Jungkook ignored him. He walked straight up to his brother, every movement precise, deliberate. "You hurt him." Jeok's smirk faltered. "What are you talking about? Don't lie to me." Jungkook snapped, the sound cutting through the room like glass. Everyone in the house stilled. Mrs. Jeon appeared at the stairs, her hand covering her mouth. "Jungkook, calm down," the chairman warned. But Jungkook didn't. His fists were clenched, trembling. Taehyung came to me with his wrist twisted. He was crying. "You think I wouldn't know the difference between an accident and someone being hurt?" Jeok's jaw tensed. "He provoked me first. There is no excuse," Jungkook shouted, his voice cracking. "He trusted you. He worked for you. And you treated him like he was nothing. You're supposed to be my brother. How could you?" "I didn't mean." "Stop lying." The fury in Jungkook's voice startled everyone. He took a step closer, eyes burning with disbelief. "You know what the difference between us is, Jeok? You think power gives you the right to break people. I spend my life trying to fix them." Jeok swallowed hard, trying to find his usual arrogance, but it was gone. His voice faltered. "You don't understand. He was supposed to choose me." Jungkook's tone softened, but it carried something worse than anger, disappointment. "He never had a choice when you treated him like property." Silence filled the mansion. Their father finally spoke, his voice cold. "Jeok, is it true?" Jeok didn't answer. That was answer enough. Chairman Jeon turned away, shaking his head. "You've shamed this family. Apologize to that boy, and stay away from him. Effective immediately, you are suspended from your position until I decide otherwise." Jeok's eyes widened. "Father." Not another word. Mrs. Jeon stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Jungkook," she whispered, "where is Taehyung now?" "He's home," Jungkook said, voice thick with emotion. "He's safe. That's all that matters." And as he walked up the stairs, the house fell silent behind him. In his room, Jungkook finally sat on the edge of his bed, pressing a hand to his face. His chest ached, from fury, from sorrow. From the strange, aching realization that somewhere between protecting Taehyung and loving him, he'd lost his brother. But if that was the cost of keeping Taehyung safe, he'd pay it 1,000 times. Because when he'd looked into those tear-filled eyes at the hospital, he'd understood something he'd never felt before. Love isn't about control. It's about choosing to protect someone, even if it means breaking everything else apart. The days following that night were quiet but full of tension. Taehyung felt a strange mix of relief and nervous anticipation. Relief that Jeok was no longer a threat. Nervous because he couldn't stop thinking about the gentle, fierce man who had protected him so completely. And Jungkook. Jungkook couldn't stop thinking about the warmth of Taehyung's hand in his, the trembling relief in his eyes, the soft, helpless trust he'd seen in him that night. It started small. A text in the morning, sent before Taehyung even arrived at the company. Jungkook, good morning Tae. Sleep well? Taehyung stared at the message for a long moment, heart skipping. He typed back almost immediately. Taehyung, I slept, okay, thank you again for last night. My wrist is better now. Jungkook, good. Don't push it too hard. Promise me. From that morning a rhythm began. Jungkook would check in via text multiple times a day, asking about his wrist, about his schedule, about whether he had eaten. There was an intensity to the messages but never controlling, always caring, always genuine. Taehyung, who had never been the type to indulge in romantic attention, found himself savoring every ping, every subtle, I'm thinking of you, every small piece of concern. And he responded in kind, cautiously at first, then more freely, letting the warmth flow naturally. At the company their interactions were no longer awkward. Juk had been removed from the equation, but Taehyung's heart had shifted in unexpected ways. Jungkook began appearing more often, sometimes just dropping by, under the guise of helping with company paperwork. Other times he'd sneak a brief visit between surgeries at the hospital, carrying a small lunch, insisting that Taehyung eat something homemade before returning to his desk. Taehyung quickly learned the rhythm of these visits. Every day he carved out a single hour from his demanding schedule, running home quickly to prepare something warm and comforting for the doctor. A small bento, sandwiches, or soup, with notes tucked inside the container. Eat slowly. Don't skip lunch. Theo. When Jungkook opened the carefully tied box, his eyes would soften. You remembered? He'd murmur, lifting the lid. Then, taking a careful bite, he'd look up at Taehyung with a faint smile that made his chest ache. Every time I see you, Jungkook said quietly once, I'm reminded how patient and kind you are. You work so hard, you don't deserve to carry it all alone. Taehyung shook his head, cheeks warm. I just like making sure someone takes care of themselves. Especially you. The moment lingered, stretching far beyond words, until Jungkook's hand brushed against Taehyung's, intentional but gentle. Taehyung's fingers twitched in response, the world narrowing down to that single electric contact. One quiet evening after the office had emptied and the city lights twinkled against the horizon, Jungkook leaned against the doorway of Taehyung's office. You've been spending too much time worrying about me, he said softly, almost a whisper. I just want to make sure you eat something warm, Taehyung admitted, shrugging awkwardly. It's not much, but... Jungkook stepped closer, the air between them charged yet tender. It's more than I could ever ask for. Taehyung's heart raced and Jungkook's eyes, dark and steady, held his. Tae, there's something I need to tell you. Taehyung's breath hitched. Yes? Jungkook took a deep breath. His hands reached for Taehyung's, holding them as if afraid to let go. I love you. The words hung in the room, delicate and unshakable. Taehyung froze, then his chest swelled with an overwhelming joy he hadn't anticipated. You love me? His voice was barely a whisper, trembling with disbelief and happiness. Yes, Jungkook said, eyes glistening with sincerity. Not because you're easy to care for, not because you make me feel important, but because you are you. Because your heart is kind. Because your strength is quiet. Because you've trusted me even when the world felt unsafe. I can't imagine my life without you in it. Tears pricked Taehyung's eyes. He swallowed hard, feeling as though every breath had been waiting for this moment. Jungkook, I've been hoping you'd feel the same. I love you too. Their laughter, soft and broken by emotion, mingled with tears. Jungkook drew him in for a hug, long and protective, and this time when their lips met, it was gentle, sweet, and full of every unspoken promise they had accumulated in the days since the hospital. When they finally parted, Taehyung rested his head against Jungkook's chest. I never imagined someone could care for me like this. You're worth more than I could ever say, Jungkook whispered back, and I'll spend every day proving it to you. In the following weeks, their bond deepened. They texted constantly, shared small moments between hospital and office visits, and built an intimacy that was tender, patient, and real. The Jeon mansion was unusually lively that evening. Dinner had been prepared for the family, the chairman, Mrs. Jeon, Juk, and Jungkook, and the conversation flowed freely, though an unspoken tension hovered beneath the surface. It didn't take long for the subtle signs to be noticed. Jungkook arrived slightly later than usual, having finished a long day at the hospital, his jacket slung over one arm. Taehyung had texted earlier, warning him of some paperwork Juk had left behind. The moment he entered, the chairman's sharp gaze softened with amusement. "Ah, here he is," the elder Jeon said with a knowing smile. "Dr. Jungkook, our family's favorite visitor. You've been spending a lot of time at the company lately, haven't you?" Jungkook's lips curved into a polite, controlled smile. "I've been helping where I can, father." Mrs. Jeon, sitting across from him, raised a brow. "Helping or someone?" Her eyes twinkled, clearly teasing. Jungkook's cheeks tinged faintly red, though he maintained his composure. Mrs. Jeon chuckled softly. "You don't need to hide it, Jungkook. We can all see it. Are you two planning to meet after dinner?" Mrs. Jeon asked lightly, deliberately loud enough to catch Juk's attention. The smirk in Jungkook's eyes was subtle but unmistakable. "We might. Just to go over some company details, I'm sure." "Details, right?" Juk muttered under his breath. Jungkook cleared his throat, modest yet unshakable. He's important to me. Very important. Important enough to make the rest of the world wait while you two talk?" the chairman quipped. "Or are you just pretending to discuss business?" The room fell quiet and Juk's eyes darkened. He had tried to manipulate, flirt, and corner Taehyung, but every attempt had been thwarted, not by chance but by the bond growing between the younger man and Jungkook. Later that night, alone in his room, Juk's thoughts churned. He stared at his reflection in the darkened window. "Why can't I have him?" he muttered under his breath. "Why is it that the moment I wanted something, it's already gone?" The jealousy he had always felt toward his brother, pride, power, charm, seemed useless here. Jungkook's love for Taehyung wasn't something Juk could manipulate or steal. It was real, steadfast, and it burned brighter than any game he had ever played. A slow, cold fury began to build, not for control, but for the recognition that he had lost. For the first time, Juk realized that some things weren't games. Some hearts weren't prizes. And he wasn't sure if he could accept that. The following weeks at the Jeon company carried a strange rhythm. To the outside world, Everything appeared normal. The business thrived, the chairman was proud, and employees worked with renewed energy. Jungkook was granted permission to go back to his position as a CEO again, promising his father to change his attitude. Chairman Jeon believed his son was now a changed man. Although Jungkook had his doubts about his brother's sincerity, he thought maybe, just maybe, Juk has really changed and no longer the playboy. One morning, Taehyung was carrying a stack of reports to the chairman's office when Juk's voice echoed through the corridor. "Taehyung," he called, smooth as ever, leaning lazily against the wall. His tie was loosened, smile playful. "Still working too hard for my brother's attention, aren't you?" Taehyung froze. "Excuse me?" Juk chuckled, pushing off the wall and walking closer. "Oh, come on. You think people don't talk? Everyone's noticed how much time you spend with him. Lunches, late night calls. You've got everyone convinced it's a love story." Taehyung's chest tightened. "Because it isn't something to gossip about. We care about each other. That's all." "Oh, of course," Juk replied, stepping close enough that Taehyung instinctively stepped back. "But just tell me one thing. What happens when my brother gets bored? When he realizes love doesn't last forever? You'll be another name, another face in a crowd that doesn't remember." Taehyung's eyes flashed, his voice quiet but steady. "Your brother isn't like you." That hit its mark. Juk's smile faded for a fraction of a second. His jaw tensed. He leaned in, whispering, "We'll see about that." Then he turned and walked away, his confidence returning with every step. That same afternoon, Jungkook arrived to surprise Taehyung for lunch. He found him in the staff lounge, seated by the window with a small bandage still visible on his wrist. "Hey," Jungkook said softly, placing 2 containers on the table. "Homemade food again. This time I tried cooking it myself." Taehyung blinked in surprise, warmth flooding his face. "You cooked? You're not serious." "I am," Jungkook laughed. "It's edible, I think." Taehyung smiled, laughing for real this time, the sound light and genuine. "Then I'll risk it." They shared lunch in the quiet, the hospital doctor and the secretary of a CEO, 2 souls from different worlds meeting somewhere between work and home, between duty and heart. Jungkook glanced at him mid-bite. "You've been quiet lately. Is something bothering you?" Taehyung hesitated. "Just little things at work. I think someone's trying to make me look careless." Jungkook frowned. "Juk." Taehyung's silence confirmed it. Jungkook reached across the table, covering Taehyung's hand with his own. "He won't hurt you again. I promise. Whatever he's trying, I'll protect you from it." Taehyung's throat tightened. "You already do," he whispered. For a long moment they just looked at each other. No words, no pretense, just truth. Then Jungkook's voice softened, low and full of emotion. "Taehyung," he said, "you're not just someone I care about. You're someone I love." Taehyung froze. His heartbeat stuttered, then raced, and before he could even speak, tears pricked his eyes. "You mean that?" he whispered, voice trembling. "With everything I am." Taehyung smiled through his tears, leaning forward, resting his forehead against Jungkook's. "I love you too." The world outside fell away, the office chatter, the hum of machines, and for that moment, There was only the warmth between them, the calm after months of chaos. But not everyone saw peace. That night, Jack stood by his window watching the company lights fade. He had tried subtle tricks, rumors, provocations, even temptation, but Taehyung hadn't faltered. Every attempt only pushed him closer to Jungkook. And now, hearing that they had finally confessed, Jack's calm mask cracked. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, eyes glinting under the dim light. "So you really think you've won, brother?" he murmured. "You think he loves you more than he ever could love me?" He set the glass down hard, the sound sharp and final. "No," he whispered. "Not yet. I'll remind everyone, who the real John is." And far from that growing storm, Jungkook and Taehyung walked through the quiet city streets after dinner, hand brushing hand, laughter echoing under the streetlights. Neither of them noticed the shadow that watched from a distance. Neither of them knew that love, the kind that felt invincible, was about to be tested by someone who refused to lose. To be continued. Thanks for watching. Please stay tuned for the last part. It is coming soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you again. Love you all.